All right, guys. Just in the interest of time, because we also want to make sure we do get through what we want to get through, allow me to start. Just to set this up a little bit, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Umar Hayat. Pleasure to be with you. I've had the pleasure of having met Malik and Adnan a little while ago for the past few months. We've been planning to do something. We actually thought of doing something at your sales conference as well, but unfortunately that didn't go through in February. So here we are. Our world has changed over the past 3 to 4 weeks. My PhD, my doctoral work is in child psychology, even though I have 3 boys under the age of 10 who don't listen to me for 1 minute, so completely useless my education, especially these days. But we'll try with you. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the psychology of motivation, about the psychology of stress, about fear management. How can we get through these times while keeping our motivation and energy and stress levels under control? Just wanted to set this up a little bit, guys. For the next hour or so, I'll need 100% of your attention. This is not a webinar where you'll just put me on and you go wash dishes or something. No, I need the 100% of your attention, which means I'll be engaging with you. I'll be pushing you to write some stuff for me in the chat box. And then maybe in about 20 minutes or so, I'll break you into breakout rooms. We'll go into breakout rooms and then we'll have a conversation with your colleagues as well. So I need your engagement. I need your attention. We'll push you for about an hour or so. Then the last 10 minutes or so, we'll open it up to any questions or answers, and then we'll get going. Of course, our life as we know it has changed over the past 3 to 4 weeks. I know we've got colleagues from Casablanca and Morocco. We've got people from Dubai, different parts of the world signing in. Let me get going by asking you, who do we have? Let's just do a quick little check from a country's perspective. Which countries do we have on the call? If you would like, on the chat box, I'd just like to share with us what countries do we have represented in this call today. Love to hear from you in the chat box. So Adnan's here as well. Fantastic. Welcome, Adnan. Everything will be okay. Now you're here. Fantastic. Mark, UAE. We've got Mr. Scott as well from Egypt. Deeb from Egypt. We've got Egypt represented. UAE. Who else do we have? Morocco. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Hussein's from Morocco, of course. UAE. Anybody else? Different parts of the world. We've got fantastic. Most of us from the UAE as well. Again, guys, just to set this up, as we've got more people joining in at the call, I will keep pushing you on this call for your engagement, because listening is not learning and talking is not teaching. So I will push you a little bit. Need your attention as we get going. For those of you who've just joined, I mentioned to you my background was in child psychology, and I'd like to share with you some hot and fresh out the kitchen ideas around psychology, around why people behave the way they do. Again, as I mentioned, the way to set up this call. Oh, we've got somebody from India as well. Welcome. So again, these are the webinars. The way we run them is I need your attention, and we'll break you into breakout rooms in about 30 minutes or so, so you can have a conversation with a smaller group and have some fun with that. So let's talk a little bit about stress. Can I get people in the chat box? Can you tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, what's the current level of stress we have right now? What's your current level of stress? How stressed out are you feeling right now? Can I get you to engage in the chat box with me? Adnan saying 9, goodness, but that's just you. Somebody's like 20, oh my goodness. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Let's hear from everyone. We've got 5s and 8s and 6s, and Stephen's on the beach. Stephen's got nothing to worry about. Relaxed. Nafia says, absolutely, life continues as normal. Look, guys, exactly. Interesting, Stephen, you say that, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about what causes stress and what are the different stress kind of, results of stress and how to handle stress. So first of all, just to set this up a little bit, remember, you cannot control stress. And remember that stress is good, right? Now, before you hang up, look, you see, stress, if you didn't have stress, you wouldn't get out of bed. right? Stress is good. Anxiety is the worry, right? For us to be able to control all stress and anxiety and manage them, that's the conversation we're going to have today. So exactly, right? There is such a thing as positive stress or healthy stress. Otherwise, if you didn't have stress, you wouldn't get out of bed, right? So let's talk a little bit about this idea of what stress does, and what is the kind of typical clinical example of stress. First thing first, guys. Let me set this up by telling you what are some of the negative impacts of stress. Uh, Three things that happen when you're operating under high levels of stress and anxiety. Firstly, does it ever happen to you where you meet somebody for the first time, you don't know them, you've never met them, but right away you like them? There's a chemistry, there's a spark, there's a connection, you like them. And if I ask you, what do you think about them? You say, very nice. I ask you why, I don't know. Now, this is control. There's a fantastic experiment on YouTube. You can YouTube. It's called Lovers in the Restaurant. Lovers in the Restaurant. What they've seen is that when two people are in love, in rapport, they pick up the coffee cup with the same fingers. Their head tilts the same way. Their facial muscles strengthen the same way. The eyelids move the same way. I lean forward. You lean forward. I lean back. You lean back. We mirror each other. Now, this is controlled by something called mirror neurons. Every one of us is born with 3 million mirror neurons, and every day 75,000 die. And when you sleep, a process of neurogenesis takes place where they're supposed to be reborn. Do you know what stops neurogenesis? Do you know what kills neurogenesis? High levels of cortisol in the blood, the hormone responsible for stress. Why am I telling you this? Because under high levels of stress and anxiety, the first thing to go is listening. The first thing to go is high levels of listening. So for those of you who are dealing with clients, from a manager-employee relationship, boss-employee relationship, spousal relationships, right? Customer-salesperson relationship, because I know a lot of you are in sales as well. The first thing to go, guys, under high levels of stress and anxiety is our listening skills. For those of you in sales, we start listening not with the intent to understand, we start listening with the intent to reply. And as salespeople under stress, we're guilty sometimes of not listening to the customers and saying, just buy it, right? Just buy it when we're stressed. So remember, first thing to go under high levels of stress and anxiety is listening. Love for you guys to give me your thought on this. There's 5 levels of listening, okay? Now I need you to tell me what level you're operating at right now. Let me tell you, there's 5 levels of listening. Level 1, ignoring, right? Level 2, pretending, right? You're on your phone, maybe like some of you right now. That's why I'm not gonna ask you to turn on your cameras. Pretending, you're only pretending to listen maybe. Level 3, selective listening. This is what I practice at home every day. Credit card. What did you say? Right? Selective listening. You only listen to what you want to listen to. Level 4, active or attentive listening. And level 5, empathic listening or empathetic listening, where you listen not with your ears, you listen with your heart, you listen at the highest level, where you listen not with the intent to reply, but you listen with the intent to understand. Love to hear from you guys in the chat box. Which level generally are you operating at these days? Are you operating at level 1, ignoring? Are you operating level 2, pretending? Are you operating level 3, selective? Are you operating level 4, active and attentive listening? Or at you have that highest level of listening, which is empathic listening? Thank you so much, guys, for your participation and engagement. Hussein says, depend on the situation. Absolutely, Hussein. Also depends on the person. Depends on the person, right? So Adina's saying 4. So again, I wanted to emphasize that the first thing to go, guys, they say in marriage counseling, they say your marriage is in trouble. It's not when you're fighting. It's when you stop fighting, right? It's when you do forget it, right? That's when you're in trouble, right? So again, I'm not saying you hang up and you start fighting, but typically your marriage is in trouble not when you're fighting. It's when you stop fighting, right? And when you operate at a lower level of listening. So, first thing to go under high levels of stress, listening. Second thing, guys, to go under high levels of stress, our ability to make decisions. Our ability to make decisions. Now, does it ever happen to you when you're stressed, you're nervous, you're anxious? Does it ever happen to you where you get the butterflies in your stomach and your palms become sweaty? Does it ever happen to you? Your butterflies in your stomach and your palms become sweaty. Do you ever wonder, why does that happen? Like, why does that happen? Like, biologically. Like, why does that happen? Right? Yeah, Steven's saying turn on your cameras, guys. Yeah, especially, if you're, unless you're very inappropriately dressed, please do. I'd love to hear from you and love to see you guys as well. It makes conversation more engaging, for sure, if you can. Let me ask you, maybe this is the moment, stress, right? Where, you get the butterflies in your stomach and your palms become sweaty. Ever wonder why does that happen, like biologically? So like we're trained in the fight or flight response, right? Let's say wherever you are right now, let's say if the door was to open and a tiger was to walk in, So you've got two choices, right? Either you fight the tiger or you run from the tiger. Nobody's going to analyze the tiger, right? Nobody's going to say, is it a good tiger or a bad tiger? A male or a female tiger? Did they bite? Exactly, Hussein. Amygdala hijack, right? We either fight the tiger or run from the tiger. Now, these days, we don't have tigers, but we've got managers, bosses. We've got some clients and some customers, right? The nasty emails come in. So right now, you get that nasty email from the boss or stress or deadline project. All of a sudden, the brain says, send all the blood to the bigger muscles, the arms and the legs. The feeling of the blood leaving your stomach and going through your arms into the legs is the butterflies in the stomach, and because there's more blood in your hands, your palms sweat to reduce the temperature. Now, why am I telling you this? Because just like the blood leaves the stomach, guess which other area of the body the blood leaves? The brain. So under high levels of stress and anxiety, guys, you don't make better decisions, you make worse decisions. The quality of our decision making goes down. When they've done these tests on fighter pilots in the US, what we've seen is that when they've put under high levels of stress and anxiety, in the short term, their performance levels go up. But after a certain point, their performance level starts to go down, but they think they're working better. Now, this optimal level where the right amount of stress generates the right amount of performance, different for different people, guys. Different for different people. The Hussein says the millennial genes. I'm not sure what you mean by. You'll have to message me again, or you want to unmute yourself. Hussein, more than happy if you want to unmute yourself and let us know. Didn't get your question, right? So this idea of so two things then: decision making and listening skills. Two things that go under high levels of stress and anxiety. One more thing, guys, very important, not to scare you. But you know, when they've done the autopsy on the brains of 55-year-old senior executives who held very stressful jobs, their brains look like the same as 85-year-old Alzheimer patients. This is what high levels of stress and anxiety does, that same kind of squidgy lining on the top, the cortisol-based activity. So Stephen says, don't laugh. So let me ask you guys then. So this is kind of what stress does. Now, what I'd love to do, I'd love to kind of get you guys to talk a little bit as well. If anybody if anybody would like to unmute themselves, love to hear from you. Anybody like to talk about, before we talk about how to handle stress, anybody like to talk about what they're seeing with their clients? Are their clients getting stressed? Are your client interactions being impacted by stress? Love to hear from you. If you'd like to unmute yourself, Stephen, Adnan, Malik, anybody like to 30 seconds, 60 seconds, just tell us from a client interaction perspective, are you guys starting to see decision making or listening skills being impacted by high levels of stress? If you guys want to unmute yourself, love to hear from
Omar,
you.
as you can see, we are not in face to face with the clients, but what we see the first sign of kind of stress is really shows in our collection. That's probably the first signal of stress that we see from the market. In addition to some delays and hesitant in certain projects or certain deals. This is how it translates to. But if it's face-to-face, we're going to see much more signals.
Fantastic. Yeah, Malik, I'm also seeing now because, as you know, well, Malik or Adnan know, I've been doing these webinars every Thursday. We've got maybe 200 people on every webinar from different country, from different industries. And yeah, they're mentioning one of the things that they're facing is clients who are panicking. So even if you're not panicking, the clients are panicking. So they're talking about recession even before the recession is here, right? So they brought on the recession on themselves, right? And it's just a paralysis by analysis. Anybody else? Maybe one more person. Love to hear from you. Maybe one more person.
Let me jump here, Omar. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Not, of course.
Another case, Omar, that we had seen, and it's very obvious in the market that a lot of companies start doing layoffs, salary reduction, and even not paying salaries, even though what's happening just had been for the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And this is one of the main things customers are saying, that because of this, our owners are stressed, are not willing to pay salaries. So this is something I think we are even facing now with the market.
Yeah, it's uncertainty, right? Anybody else? Again, guys, please feel free. This is your session. Let's engage. Let's learn with each other. Love to hear from all of you. If you want to unmute yourself, your thoughts around what are you seeing right now in your personal or your professional life, decisions being impacted by stress.
Omar, can I add one thing also?
Please.
If you allow me.
Please.
And before just going in deeply on the stress, but I'm speaking from a personal experience within the last 3 weeks. Personally, I thought that this stress will be negative. It will be maybe harmful on us as an individual, as the company. But on the opposite side, I think this stress had shown the best of a lot of us. And this is something maybe you can highlight later, but this is something I personally went through it, feel it, and it's a fact that we had seen the last 3 or 4 weeks.
And isn't that true, right? Isn't it true that either these circumstances bring out the best in people or the worst in people, right? Attitude. Our attitudes will define us. Look, something that you mentioned, I'm just going to put the screen up here in 1 second. I think it's very relevant to what you were speaking about. I think it'll add value to you guys as well. Allow me to put up my screen now. I see so many faces. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for putting yourself on the camera. Just wanted to show this to you guys. This is that typical kind of change curve, guys, that people go through. I'd like to talk to you about this because maybe some of us are experiencing this right now, right? Something happens to you you're not ready for, right? Like the coronavirus, right? Something happens to you you're not ready for. Here are the typical stages of change, guys, that people go through, right? The first one being kind of shock, right? I can't believe this is happening. It's not happening. Shock. And then there's a stage of denial, maybe, right? Denial. It'll go back to the way it used to be. It won't last, right? Maybe some of us had this denial phase. There's a fantastic article I read the other day where people spoke about the normalcy bias, that human beings, we have something called the normalcy bias, where we believe that things will go back to normal. Well, maybe in some cases, guys, they won't go back to normal. Maybe this is our new normal. Maybe the amount of traveling that you guys were doing before and going to go see clients and drop off a hat and business meetings, and I don't know. So shock, then there's denial. Then there's maybe some paralysis, right? Maybe some paralysis took place. Oh my God, my life is over. You can imagine, guys, my world, learning and development. Here I am delivering keynotes traveling over the world, doing public speaking, boom, finished, right? Can't go anywhere. And then, so that's paralysis, right? And then there's some anger, right? Why did this have to happen now? That is hurt. Why does this always happen to me? And then I guess at some stage, acceptance and healing, right? Can't do anything about it. Might as well get used to it. And then boom, here we are with pushing Adnan and Malik for 6 months to get a workshop. Here we are, right? So there's some new strengths, some new goals. And look, we're doing these virtual sessions. We've got your colleagues from all over the world. We wouldn't have been able to do this maybe before, right? But we've across the change curve. Now I need some support from you guys here in the chat box. Love to hear from you. Think about it. Think about it for yourself. Where are you right now? Be honest. Which stage are you in? Are you kind of in denial a little bit? Are you stuck in paralysis? Are you in anger? Are you in hurt? Or have you gone over the acceptance and the healing? Love to hear from everybody, guys. Love to hear from everybody in the chat box. Adnan saying hard work, and Siddesh saying we're past that curve. We're on the new goals, right? Acceptance, right? Love to hear from everybody. Love to hear your thoughts. Where are you right now, right? Which part of this curve do you find yourself on? Saeed saying hard work. So most of you saying we're already across that. Hussein saying learning new skills, adapting, having to do these virtual meetings. By the way, I don't know, Stephen, if you're noticing this or not, mate, but I find everybody's on time for Zoom meetings. Everybody's on time, right? Except you guys. No, and generally I find webinars are much more punctual than they used to be. You know, people are on time. People actually saying that they're working longer. I don't know if that's your experience, guys. People find they're working longer, so they'll log on at like 9 a.m. and then go all the way till midnight. You'll send an email to someone and then you log off, and then by the time they reply, then you gotta log in again. So you're working longer, right? You're working longer than you guys were before, right? So new goals and some new confidence and so on. Look, 3 things, guys, very important. I want to talk to you about 3 things. There are 3 things we can work on. It's either skills, behaviors, and attitudes. Think about it. Need your attention here. Skills. So a skill is something you can learn, right? Like presentation skills, negotiation, you know, closing sales, objection handling, that kind of stuff. You can learn it. Skill you can learn. A behavior you can influence. So time management is a skill. Not being on time is a behavior. And not caring to be on time is an attitude. Time management is a skill. Not being on time is a behavior. Not caring to be on time is an attitude. A skill you can learn. A behavior you can influence, right? Fear or reward. If you're not early, we'll punish you. You know, if you're late, we'll punish you. If you're on time, we'll recognize you. Behavior you can influence. I need your support a little bit in the chat box. Love to hear from you. What about attitude, guys? What about attitude? Can attitude be changed? And if you say yes, please tell me how. Can attitude be changed? And if you say yes, can you tell me how? Stephen says, yes, it can be changed. Okay. Love to hear from you guys in the chat box. We've got 18 of our colleagues with us all over the world. This is wonderful. Love to hear from you. Can attitude be changed? And if you say yes, how? Malik saying maybe practice and mentoring and giving people feedback. Adnan saying yes, it can change. Deep saying yes. Omari saying yes by understanding why this change has to happen. So I guess Stephen's saying a kind of role modeling. And so if you, by example, either leading by your own example or watching others do it. Stephen, if I can have you unmute, mate, 30 seconds. What do you think? What do you mean by example, mate?
I think you know, you can often be in a situation where you all have a fairly negative attitude or a negative perception, but by the end of perhaps a session like this, you know, we may change, you know, our views, or might change our ideas just through each other encouraging.
Fantastic, Stephen. Look, 1,100 PhD papers written on the topic of attitude, how attitude gets shifted. No conclusion yet. I'll tell you what I think. I think the only way sustained attitude shift takes place, sustained, is through something called PPP, positive peer pressure, or culture, or environment. Look, guys, if you're part of an environment where everybody's on time, you see, over time, your own attitude changes, right? Hussein, can't agree with you more. Self-awareness, the first part, but I don't think only through self-awareness does it stay sustained, right? So positive peer pressure, the ability to surround yourself with others. So, Stephen, just your fault, Stephen, mate. Look, guys, look, important. Human beings are highly impressionable, highly gullible creatures, right? Look, we become a product of our environment. There's a fantastic experiment they did at Heathrow Airport, Terminal 5, British Airways, just about a year ago, right? People were complaining that their bags weren't on time, right? So people, their bags aren't on time. So what they started doing is they started parking the plane 10 minutes further away. So by the time people got to the belt, their bags were there. They're like, this is great service. This is fantastic. Same time. But the perception was, I got there, my bags are there. That's how we become a part of our environment. They've seen in Waitrose and Sainsbury, the grocery stores, that the day they play more French music, they decorate the shop in a French way, they sell more French products. The day they set it up in a more, they play more Italian music, they sell more Italian products. We are part of our environment. We become part of the environment we are in. So that's why, guys, Malik's asking, well, how do we create PPP? Well, that's for the next session, Malik. No, I'm just kidding. No, look, it's part of culture. It's culture setting. Culture happens two ways, guys. Culture happens two ways. First of all, you teach people how to live a certain behavior. And then when they do, you reward them. So development and motivation together. That's how culture gets created, right? But let me emphasize something. It's very, very important for you. How do you teach them? Well, Adnan, you do sessions like this that I've been telling you for the past 6 months. Just kidding. But you develop, right? We develop people, we upskill people, development needs analysis, right? We figure out what our people need. Look, sessions like these, right? And that's what Stephen was mentioning. I appreciate, Stephen, what you're saying. Look, sometimes talking about stress reduces stress. Sometimes talking about motivation increases motivation. Here we are, we've got our colleagues all over the world, and we're talking about stress management and motivation management. So let me make an important point. Till now, I've covered with you 3 negatives of stress: listening skills, decision making, and health, right? Health, right? Just by the way, guys, Ramadan is coming up. By the way, I'm doing a session next week on managing focus and energy in Ramadan. We're having some nutritionists and dietitians with us. Guys, here's the crazy bit. Do you know weight gain? You know weight gain. You know weight gain, right? Weight gain, right? Every nutritionist in the world will tell you that weight gain has almost nothing to do with the quantity of food that you eat. It's the quality of food and your stress levels, right? Because what does your brain tell you, right? The brain tells you stress, something's going to happen, something is coming, winter is coming, store up, winter's coming, store up, and that's how we put on weight. So all of these diabetes and cholesterol level and all these stress-related illnesses. Okay. So now we know what stress does. What do we do about it? Look, here's what I'm going to do. The way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to introduce something, And then we're going to go into breakout rooms because I want you to talk with your colleagues as well and share some ideas around what you're doing with stress management. The first thing I'll tell you though, let me ask you a question, important. We've got people from, Dunya, mashallah, with us as well, Egypt. We've got Morocco. We've got people from all over the world. Would you say, love to hear from you in the chat box, would you say that today we are the most stressed society that's ever existed? Would you say that we're today more stressed than our parents' generation or we were 20, 30 years ago? Love to hear from you in the chat box. Are we today more stressed than our parents' generation? Are we today more stressed than 20, 30 years ago? Let's see what we get. Stephen says yes. Dina says yes. Mark says yes, 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 of course, yes. Let me ask you, if you're saying yes, can you tell me, please, why? Why are we today the most stressed society that's ever existed? Why? Why are we today more stressed? Yes, the cortisol testing, yes, proves, yes, blood tests and health, we are today more stressed than our parents' generation across the board. Yes, we are more stressed. Why? Why? I'd love to hear from you. Why? If you want to unmute yourself, have a chat with us, no problem. Love to hear from you. Why? Lifestyle. Malik saying pace and technology. Malik, technology was supposed to make our life easier, no? What? Phones are getting...
I agree, but it's adding more pressure than getting life easy in so many cases.
Phones are getting smarter, people are getting dumber.
Yeah, you need to catch up. The pressure to catch up with technology is just huge as well.
Look at this. Look at Fortive. Look at you guys. Materialism. Love it. Complexity of life. Malik, why haven't we done this before? I'm preaching to the choir here. Complexity of life. Look, a lot of discussion around stress. I'll tell you what I think. My 2 cents. I think the reason why today we are the most stressed society that's ever existed is because we are the most selfish society that's ever existed. Everything we do is for me, myself, my family, and I. Fake targets. Fake news, fake targets. By the way, also tell you, one of the reasons is also CNN, stands for constant negative news. Look, I think we're the most stressed society because we're the most selfish society. What are we going to do about stress, guys? Malik, go ahead, mate.
Am I included?
Well, we'll find out in a little bit. Look, here's what I need to do, guys. Here's what I need. I need your support a little bit. I'm going to divide you guys into breakout rooms. Now, play with technology a little bit. The moment I press enter, you guys are going to get a little notification on your screens. Make sure you press accept. When you press accept, you'll have about 3 to 4 people in your room. Please, obviously, unmute yourself. Obviously, introduce yourself. And then I'd love for you guys for about 6 to 7 minutes or so. Then I'll bring you guys back in the main room. I'd love for you guys to share with your colleagues personally, what are you doing to manage your stress? For those of your managers or you're managing teams of people, if you want to talk about what you're doing for your teams, that's also okay from an organizational perspective. But love to hear from you in your little rooms. If you can discuss with your colleagues, what are you doing right now? I'll share some ideas with you, but want to hear yours first. What are you doing now from a stress management perspective? I'm going to create about 5 rooms, so that's about 3 to 4 people per room. And then I'm going to keep jumping into different rooms to make sure you're engaged. So please, when you get the notification, accept and unmute yourself and have a conversation. The topic is, what are you doing right now for stress management? Here we go.
healthier.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
Good for the skin, but it's I shave it actually as stress relief. To be honest, I feel better.
We need to get on with what we were asked to do. What the plan?
Yeah, it's very good to
Well,
have that.
you know the group with the managers is the worst one. You know.
Yeah.
But it's the best one for me. So I have my both superiors so that I can learn what they do in stress management.
Go ahead, guys. I'm going to jump in the other room. Go ahead.
So
that in your mind دائما 24 ساعة thinking about stuff يعني it's not healthy at least يعني this is how I see it. Plus when you know you're doing your job and you're doing the maximum that you can do الباقي كله بيد الله then يعني probably you can do nothing.
Omar is online, so speak English.
Oh no, I can, man. I have been to Dunya 35 times.
Really? So you speak Arabic now?
Almost, man. I should be given honorary Egyptian citizenship.
Really? So that indicates that we have a lot of stress in Egypt, huh?
Ahli and Zamalek and
Oh, you know.
Pro.
إلا بيحصل. That's what I remember.
مفيش حاجة بتحصل. So where you are from?
Originally from Pakistan, brother. I was born and raised in Pakistan, and then I went to Canada for many years. Don't want to interrupt you guys. Please continue your conversation. I gotta go jump in the other rooms.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, guys, it's, as I said, it's a day.
Be alone and just clear your mind. Don't want to talk to anyone. Just want to clear your mind alone and not think about anything. Because maybe the stress is coming from other people also.
Guys, why aren't you opening your cameras? Why so shy? Talk to each other.
Yeah. Where is the camera?
Cameras, guys. Good-looking people in this room. Hey, look at that, man. Look at Samir.
It's not working.
Fantastic. Sorry, guys. Don't want to interrupt you. I'll let you guys talk. I'll dissolve the rooms in about 3 to 4 minutes. Please continue.
Sure.
We finished.
Okay.
Let's start from the beginning.
What are you doing? I'd love to hear from you. Practically,
So we said-
what you guys are doing.
We said meditation. I said meditation, gardening. I think Vidya, you were talking about yoga and cooking, right?
And you're sending an email, it will never end. But you stay in this mood of work and stress, customer, target, and all the stuff, and you're never out of it. So for me, it's important to have these clear boundaries and the good balance between work and family and personal time.
Why aren't you guys open your cameras up, man? Why so shy? Open your cameras up. We can see you guys.
No, it's not a question of shyness because we are not. I'm not
good-looking people in this group, man.
Yeah, man, I did not shave for the last 2.
Wallah, you should see some of the other groups. Some of the other
You see
rooms.
Anas? You see my beard, my white beard?
Yeah, mashallah. That's good.
That's the haircut. Yalla, guys, I'm going to dissolve the rooms in just about 30 seconds, okay?
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And
do some workout at home. Then I go to have my shower, breakfast, and then I start working at 8. I'm working longer than usual. You know, these days it's a little bit hard.
Ali, my apologies to interrupt. This is Omar. First of all, open your cameras, guys. Wait, come on, man. Let's see. Why so shy? It's a good-looking look here.
I'll open.
There you go, man.
I wasn't ready for a video call anyway.
Hey, man, you should see some of the other guys. No, I'm kidding. No. Guys, I'm gonna dissolve the room here in about 5 seconds. Okay, we're gonna go back in the main room.
Okay.
All right.
I'll tell you later, Deep.
We should all be back in our living room. We're back, all of us together. Okay. May I ask if somebody can just a couple of people, you want to debrief us as we talk about what the heck to do with stress. If you want to just tell us a little bit what was the conversation in your rooms, guys. If it was a decent conversation, couple of rooms, you know.
I think Nuruddin has to say something. Nuruddin.
No.
No. But that's the issue. I spoke. You have to brief them.
You probably summarized what you did, what you talked about.
Love to hear from you guys. Any things you guys are doing on stress management? What did you talk about in your rooms?
Well, okay, I'll do a quick summary for what the team said. I mean, they do put a plan for the week by which they try to stick to, and waking up early in the morning, having like a sort of a plan like exercising, reading Quran, reading dua, etc. So to prepare themselves for the day, start work around 8, so that make it part of the routine. The only issue they're having here is basically they don't have a limit on the work day. Now they're trying to put that and make it like day work. And also one thing they try to do is try to have daily calls with the rest of the team so they can feel associated with the group. So that group teamwork, I mean, is still basically instilled in their work.
All right.
Work.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
Okay,
Somebody else. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, for our part. So we start the discussion by I think to get rid of stress, we have to start both with two things. The first one is to have a good nutrition, so to monitor, say, some vitamins, minerals that helps the body to get relaxed, like magnesium, like vitamin D, like iodine, for example, to monitor this very, very well. And also to get a good sleep. So if you are sleeping well, so you are sure that you are repairing your nervous system and you will wake up tomorrow with a good energy and less of stress.
Okay.
Hussein, you're having a good sleeps?
I'm trying, Adnan. So
good for you in this case.
Hussein's on the beach, man. Hussein's on the beach. Got nothing to worry about. Look, guys. I need your attention.
I'm just advising, Adnan. I'm not saying that I'm doing it, but
other people.
I'm just joking.
Guys, I need your attention. I'm going to take you a little bit high level, okay? I need your focus. We're going to go talk about neuroscience a little bit, okay? Important stuff. If you can learn what I'm sharing with you in the next 10, 15 minutes or so, this is hot and fresh out the kitchen, MIT, INSEAD level stuff, okay? So about 3 years ago, I had my colleagues and I from Professor Mintzberg from Montreal, Canada, that's where I did my doctoral work. They started getting all these cases, Stephen, of these ridiculous amounts of employee burnout. So we started getting these, people in their late 30s and people in their early 40s, just tired, right? Just exhausted, just kind of employee burnout. So we started doing some research around what was employee burnout, what was going on, right? In our research, one of the things we found out that one of the things people were lacking, right, is kind of engagement, purpose. And I'm going to talk to you about that. Employee engagement scores in the GCC, Gulf countries, right? We had 25% of people who were actively disengaged or at work looking for work. Obviously, present company excluded. Then we had another 25% of people who were just like they came to work, they hung up their jackets, they hung up their hearts, 5 o'clock, they put their hearts back in their chest, they were happy again. 30% of people were engaged, so they did a good job, they showed up, they did a good job, and then 20% of people were super engaged, right? New project, give it to me, boss, they'll do it, and so on. So, here's what I want to share with you guys, all right? I need your attention. Energy levels. Energy levels. We talked about this. Let's talk about energy levels. Critical. So for 3 years, all I did was I looked at brain scans of children, right? Of kids, right? Now, what happens inside the brains for us? Here's what happens. If you look at the MRI scan of a human child between the age of 0 and 2, the only real activity happening in the brain is right here, kind of right next to the spinal cord, in the back of the head, in something called the reptilian brain, okay? This is where bioenergy is stored, the basic level, okay? Bioenergy is stored, okay? This energy was responsible for keeping you alive. So, when you were hungry, you cried. When you were scared, you cried. Somebody picked you up, you laughed. So that kept you alive. Bioenergy between the ages of 0 and 2. Now, some people were born with high levels of bioenergy, like 5 o'clock, 5 in the morning, they're in the gym, like Malik. And then other people just born with low levels of emotional, like low level of bioenergy, right? Barely make it to work, like Adnan. You know, it's okay. We're just born with different levels of bioenergy. It's perfectly fine. So that's level 1, bioenergy. Then between the ages of 2 and 6, the core limbic system, the center of the head, starts to get developed, right? In what we call emotional energy. Emotional energy gets created in the limbic system, where you learned emotional responses. Like, you know, your parents yelled at you, you cried, they picked you up, you learned human interaction. Nuruddin, Stephen, you want to know something crazy? You want to know something crazy, guys? Let me ask you a question. How many fears is a human baby born with? In the chat box, quickly, love to hear from everybody. How many fears do you think a human child is born with? In the chat box, how many fears? Adnan, except you, because we've been talking for too long. Nuruddin says 3, 0. Tariq says 0, 0, Stephen says. Samir says 0, nothing, Malik says. Thousands, Hussein. It's just in Morocco, Hussein. No, none, 0, 0. Look, a human baby is born with 3 fears. We're born with the fear of loud noise. We're born with the fear of falling. So heights is an innate fear. And we're born with the fear of drowning. Babies hold their breath underwater. Every other fear, we were not born with it, we learned it. Like the fear of rejection.
Omar, just one question. What about all our fears that we have in our genes? That I have said previously that we acquired this during our, let's say, past generations and millennial generations.
So
why I'm telling thousands of fears.
Fantastic, Hussein. Allow me to say, as a child, we were not born with these fears, right? But there is genetic disposition. I'll get to that in 1 second, right? The fear of public speaking, the fear of rejection, the fear of loss, the fear of Stephen King, all of these, we were not born with it. We learn it. You want to know something crazy? When we learn it? We learn it between the ages of 2 and 6. That's it. Now, let me explain to you. Let's say you're sitting in a class, the teacher asks you, say something, you're like, I hate public speaking, and your student says, me too, you too, me too, me too. It must be normal. So to Hussein's fantastic point, there is something as genetic disposition. Hussein, I don't want to get too psychological, but the bandwidth with which you experience fears depends on that, what we've learned. It's called neural pathways right in the front of our head here. So if you grew up and people told you people from this country are like that, people from this background are like, you grew up with this neural pathways. But allow me to finish. These fears, we were not born with it, we learned it. The good news is, because we learned it, we can unlearn it. You know what palliative care? What palliative care is, guys? Anybody heard of this thing called palliative care? It's a ward in the hospitals, right? It's a part of in the hospitals, pain management, right? Where they keep people who are dying. And they did a survey in 26 palliative care units around the world. And they asked people who are dying, they asked them, what's your biggest regret in life? What do you think they said, guys? Love to hear from you in the chat box. What do you think was the biggest regret of the dying? What could be your biggest regret? Love to hear from you in the chat box. What do you think was the regret? Yeah, Stephen says interaction with family. So Stephen, number 3 was, I wish I spent more time with my loved ones, was number 3. Yeah. So number 3, yeah. Nuruddin, number 3, yeah. Anybody else, guys? Love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. Tariq says missed opportunities. Right. Adnan Singh bye. That's just you, Adnan. That's just you, mate. Anybody else? Love to hear from you guys. Family health. Again, guys, thank you so much for your engagement. I told you from the beginning, these are not monotonic death by PowerPoint webinars. We're going to listen and we learn together. Family and health. So number 3 was, I wish I'd spend more time with my loved ones. Number 2, believe it or not, I was surprised myself, was religion. I wish I was more religious, because, you know, when the plane hits turbulence, we all become a little bit more religious, right? We become a little bit more religious. The plane lands and we're okay again. Number one, the biggest regret of the dying, they said, I wish I'd taken more risk. I wish I started that project I wanted to start. I wish I started that business I wanted to start. I wish I would have asked her to marry me. I was so busy living my life with a fear of failure that I never did the things I wanted to do. My friends, first level of energy, bioenergy, born between the ages of 0 and 2. Second level of energy, emotional energy in the limbic system, right here between the ages of 2 and 6. The third level of energy, born between the ages of 6 and 12, is what we call cognitive energy, cognition. It's right here, guys, in the prefrontal lobe, the neocortex, the frontal lobe, where cognitive energy, 2 plus 2 is 4, math, science, logic, born between the ages of 6 and 12. Believe it or not, sorry to tell you, after the age of 12, your brain really doesn't change much. Sorry to tell you guys. Sorry, Stephen, mate. Doesn't change much after the age of 12. Your IQ doesn't really change much, guys. After the age of 12, your IQ, my case probably went down, but doesn't really change much after the age of 12. But your EQ, your emotional quotient, goes up. What are some things inside emotional intelligence? Remember, we're going to do another session one of these days, hopefully, when you find more budget. I'm just kidding. Here's what we're going to talk about. Emotional intelligence. What are things inside emotional intelligence? Self-awareness, self-expression, objectivity, stress management, impulse control, optimism, achievement drive, contentment, empathy, compassion. All inside emotional intelligence. What an important topic for us to talk about. EQ and not just IQ. IQ gets you hired, EQ gets you promoted. What you know got you the job. How you deal with who you know gets you promoted. So 3 levels then. Bioenergy, emotional energy, cognitive energy, but there's one missing. One thing missing for us, the highest level of energy without which burnout could be possible, without which stress management is difficult to manage, the highest level of energy, something we call soul energy or purpose energy, spiritual energy, having a purpose, something that we live for, having a purpose, something with, why are you here? I don't mean here, I mean like in the world, like why are you here, right? Like people who are in the military, right? People who are in the army. The purpose is clear, right? Defend the country. Athletes win the gold medal. What is your purpose, guys? What is your purpose? If there's nothing else from the session you remember, I hope one thing you remember. Please take a picture of the screen. Please take a picture of the screen. Very important. This is hot and fresh out the kitchen science I'm sharing with you. 4 levels of energy. If you want to avoid burnout, guys, if you want to avoid stress, we got to keep these 4 energy pillars in sync. Like if one is out, the others compensate. Like, you know, if you're not taking care of yourself physically, like if you're not in good shape, right? If you're not keeping yourself active, emotional energy suffers as well. Look, I'm not saying 6-pack like Adnan. I'm not saying 6-pack. I'm just saying, the last time I ever get to talk to you guys. I'm not saying 6, I'm just saying active. You got to stay active, right? high level of bioenergy. That's why you guys were talking about the gym, right? Physical workout. High level of emotional energy. So you know how we keep high level of emotional energy, right? Obviously working out. What about high level of bioenergy? I'm sorry. How do we keep high levels of emotional energy, guys? Love to hear from you in the chat box. If you want to unmute yourself, have a conversation with us. How do you keep high levels of emotional energy? Bioenergy, we know. How do we keep high levels of emotional energy? Love to hear from you. Stephen saying meet more people. Well, interesting, Stephen, something, interesting, right? They're talking about how people are like more depressed because we're like at home now. Imagine being home with people we don't want to be with. But so you're like, we're home now, right? And we're driven by 300,000 years of evolutionary behavior. Oxytocin gets released in social environments. We're social creatures, right? We want to be with other people. Doing stuff you like, Malik saying communicating and socializing more and doing things we want to be with. Love to hear from everybody in the chat box. Love to hear from Nuruddin, love from other friends, Deeb, Daniel. Love to hear from you guys in the chat box. That's how we're going to do it every session, virtual sessions. We're going to keep you guys engaged, right? Doing things, absorb the frustration, doing things we want to do. So here's the crazy thing. There are 3 hormones responsible for happiness, 4 actually. 4 hormones responsible for happiness. Oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. Responsible for happiness. What do we do? So stay with me, a little bit higher level, 5 minutes, need your attention. Cortisol is a sticky hormone, right? It stays in your blood longer than the other hormones. That's why, like, if you feel stressed, like something happens to you, you have an accident, God forbid, or somebody, and then you feel stressed the whole day, like you feel heavy the whole day, because oxytocin stays in your blood longer. Love to hear. Yeah, exactly, Hussein. So if we're gonna dissolve cortisol, we gotta thin the blood. How do we thin the blood? Right? How do we thin the blood? Right? 3 ways. Right? Warm it. Nicotine. Well, I don't know about that, Deep. But how do we thin the blood? Well, you're not Nuruddin is onto something, right? Drugs. Right? Hey. Well, I don't advertise it. I don't advocate it, but I'm just saying all these antidepressants, right? All these antidepressants, what is it, Xanax and Lexotinol and all these, you know what they do, guys, right? They're fake neurotransmitters. So they fake so serotonin is a neurotransmitter. They fake serotonin so you feel relaxed. The problems with that, guys, is that if you keep having fake serotonin, after a while, your brain stops producing its own serotonin. So I don't suggest that. Look, guys, we gotta release dopamine, endorphins, serotonin. Gotta be around people we want to be with. You gotta do things that you love to do. You gotta find out what your passions are and lose yourself in your passion before you lose your passion. I'm not talking about likability, right? I'm talking about passion. I'm talking about something I'll spend my money. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. I'll take a flight. I'll do something. Very few people know what their passions are. If there's anything you remember from this conversation, love for you to think about your passion, right? What your passion is. That's that soul purpose energy, the purpose energy. You remember the example of the janitor at NASA? Remember the janitor at NASA? They asked him, "What are you doing here?" The janitor, he said, "I'm sending a man to the moon." Because his purpose got aligned with his organization's purpose. That's where magic happens. That's where 2 + 2 becomes 5. The flow state they talk about. If you can find out what your passion is and lose yourself in the passion, and hopefully one day you can start doing for a living what your passion is. Because if you can do that, it shows. You don't need to tell people, it shows. Time after time, year after year, it shows. One more thing, critical thing, guys. Anybody here read the book The Secret? Anybody here read the book The Secret? We've got about 20 minutes or so to go, less than that. Need your attention. Anybody read the book The Secret? If there's one thing I'd love for you guys to do, you know, everybody's in lockdown, nobody's kind of going anywhere. If you wanted to, actually, let me give you some of the names of the books as well. That Malik, yeah, the documentary is a little bit materialistic. It says, if you do this, you will become rich. I tried, doesn't work. No, look, the book's pretty good. Daniel Goleman, yeah, of course, Hussein, fantastic work on emotional intelligence. But the secret talking about laws of attraction. What does the secret say? Look, the secret says, you will become what you think about. You will become what you talk about most of the time. So people who talk about things they don't have in their life is full of things they don't have. We're talking about motivation in this workshop. We're talking about stress management. Remember, guys, people who have a very clear vision of what success looks like always find a way to get there. Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, Barack Obama swear by the secret, you will become what you think about most of the time. And people who have a very clear vision of what success looks like always find a way to get there. Because if you don't know what success looks like, one day you will be successful and not know it. If you don't know what success looks like, one day you'll be successful and not know it. So my friends, if there's one thing we can do in the time we have, just write down your vision of success. Please, if you're listening to this, if there's one thing we can do, just, it doesn't have to be a novel, just 3 lines, just 4 lines. By the time I'm 35, by the time I'm 45, by the time I'm 55, I'm sitting here with these people. These are my kids. This is their names. This is what they're doing. I live in a house like this. This is what I do. I don't want to get overly technical. We've got about 15 minutes or so to go, but there's 3 levels of the brain, guys. There's the conscious brain. With the conscious brain, you can only focus on about 1 thought per minute, per moment, right? Like you're doing right now, 1 thought per moment. Then you've got the preconscious brain, which is the autopilot brain. It can focus on about 8 to 9 different thoughts per moment. That's when, remember, when you guys learned driving on the manual shift, on the stick shift. Remember in the beginning, you used to let the clutch go too early and boom, right? After a little while, you could change gears, you could talk to people, you could eat, listen to music, no problem. That's autopilot behavior. Maybe some, doesn't happen now, but used to happen when you used to leave your house in the morning, going to work, you're on your phone, and all of a sudden you end up in the parking lot of Healthcare City, and you're like, how'd I get here? Right? That's autopilot behavior. That's level 2. But there's level 3, guys, called the subconscious brain. Your subconscious brain does not know the difference between what is real and what you imagine. So right now, if you tell your subconscious brain, I want to be the president of Egypt, I don't know why you do that, but anyway, if you did, right, your subconscious brain starts to make a plan to take you from where you are to where you want to be. It's your conscious brain that gets in the way and says you can't do it, you're not old enough, you don't know any better, and so on. Feed the brain, guys. Feed the subconscious brain. I'm going to give you some books to read here. I'm going to give you some books to read in the chat box here. Some great little books right now. Great little book to read. Indistractable right now. Important for the times we're living in right now. Indistractable. How about grit? How about the grit factor? Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey talked about the grit factor. How about Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama? What I'm going to do, guys, after we finish our call, I'm going to leave my email address and my phone number with you guys in case there's something else you guys want to talk about. It'd be my pleasure to help and support you guys. I hate to do this, but we do have our YouTube channel. So imagine 2 months ago I was saying this. Subscribe to my... Anyway, I'll give you my YouTube channel here in a second as well. No choice, guys, no choice. last part of our conversation. Last part of our conversation. Positivity and negativity. Want to ask you guys a question. In the chat box. Positivity and negativity. Is it something we're born with, or is it something we learn? What do you guys think? Positivity and negativity. Something we're born with, or something we learn? What do you think? Adnan saying both. Saeed says we learn it. Omari saying we learn it. Tariq saying we learn it. Jalal says we learn it. Again, guys, thank you so much for your participation and engagement. It makes it so worthwhile. And I'm sure we'll get another opportunity to talk to you guys again about some of these topics and learn, right? 700 PhD papers written on the topic of positivity and negativity. No conclusion yet. Here's what I think. I think human beings are positive creatures. I think we wake up every day thinking that today will be better than yesterday. I think we're positive creatures. But then something happens to us, right, where we become negative. Do you know any negative people in your life? Do you know any negative people in your life? Do you know any people in your life where your success makes them unhappy or sad or mad? That it's not enough for them to succeed, for it to be a great day, you have to fail also. That's a great day. Positivity and negativity. Look, guys, I'll leave the last 10 minutes or so for questions and answers. And if you have any comments, 4 or 5 more minutes to go. I just want to leave you with some thoughts around positivity. Our fitra, as we say in Arabic, our nature, the more we give, the more we get. So Stephen, Nuruddin, Adnan, Malik, Dina, Deep, check this guys out. Check this out, guys. Crazy stuff, okay? So they did these blood tests on people who commit random acts of kindness, right? So they hold the door open for somebody as they're walking in. They call their friend to tell them how much, how proud they are of what they achieved. They call their parents to tell them how much they love them. So they did random acts of kindness. They did blood tests on people who committed the acts of kindness and those who received the acts of kindness. Would you believe that the levels of dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin were higher in the blood of people who committed the act of kindness than those who received it? So calling your parents to tell them how much you love them made you feel happier than them. The more we give, the more we get. Just fitra. My friends, what an important time we have right now. What an important time. This is the leadership opportunity of a generation. Our conversations with Adnan and Malik a few months ago was around sales and sales meetings and your sales conference that happened in February. Unfortunately, we couldn't put something together, but I wanted to talk to you then about the psychology of sales. And I want to tell you now, this is the sales opportunity of a generation. Hopefully this thing goes away. Inshallah, it goes away soon. Who knows? Maybe it won't. I don't know. All I know is reaching out to clients right now, those payment terms that they were struggling with, right? Some struggling with cash flows, some struggling with margins, some struggling just with positivity and emotion. If not now, then when? If not now, to do value selling. Remember value selling, guys? Remember value selling? Selling not what we need to sell, but what they need to buy. What an opportunity for value selling. What an opportunity to just call in and say, look, I'm not calling to sell you something. Just saying, how are you doing? I know many of you are experienced salespeople. I know you're doing this already. I just wanted to emphasize, leadership opportunity of a generation, sales opportunity of a generation. Maybe, people saying, well, Omar, what if we're doing things like, trust, and, we're doing things around, relationship building with clients and so on. Well, Malik, you talk about salary, I'll tell you that. The other day I was putting up some statistics about people with higher levels of EQ, right? And they're talking about how people with higher levels of EQ make on average 28% more around the world, right? People who are able to tap into their clients right now. And remember, guys, people in life remember you not for what you do for them. They remember you for how you make them feel. Allow me to wrap up by telling you, people in life remember you not for what you do for them. They remember you for how you make them feel. Spousal relationships, friendships, boss-employee relationships, customer-salesperson relationships. What an opportunity, Fortive. What an opportunity for you right now to create relationships. This will pass. This will pass. Imagine what they'll remember us for. I hope the session's been interesting for you. I hope it's been engaging for you. So many conversations with you around how do we get people to become more engaged and more motivated, and energy levels. And what I want to do now, guys, is I want to leave it up to any questions or any comments that you might have. Allow me to summarize. Remember the 4 levels of energy. Remember how many fears a human baby was born with. Remember, we were not born with it, we learned it. Remember 5 levels of listening. Remember the 5 levels of listening. Ignoring, pretending, selective, active, empathic. Remember what stress does. Inhibits our listening. Inhibits decision making. Remember, the blood leaves the stomach and the mind. Remember what stress did to our health. How do we manage stress? We said purpose. We said operating with high levels of energy. We saying by thinning the blood, by doing things we love to do, and surrounding yourself with people we want to be with. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. Remember, we looked at the change curve. Remember those stages of the change curve. What were the stages of the change curve? Remember the shock and denial and paralysis and anger and then hurt, and then acceptance and then healing. I hope you're not stuck in some part of the change curve. Tony Robbins says, if you work the same way for 10 years, you haven't worked 10 years. You work your first year 10 times. Let me repeat that. If you work the same way for 10 years, you haven't worked 10 years. You work your first year 10 times. I'm going to put up my email address, guys. I'll put up my phone number. We got a small little group here, so anytime you guys want to talk about anything. For those of you who are managers who are leading teams of people, very important. For those of you who are in sales, watch your motivation levels, guys. Watch your motivation levels. Typically for salespeople, the first thing to go, motivation. Results follow. Adnan and Malik know this. For 6 years, I was a stockbroker in Canada. That's why I'm so messed up. And in stock brokerage, we sold. And some of the lessons I learned around value selling, maybe for another day. Love to share with you some value selling and how do we sell in crisis, and how do we keep our own motivation levels up. Gentlemen, last few minutes. I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts, any comments? Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street, Stephen. I had the pleasure of meeting Jordan Belfort a few years ago when he was in Dubai. He speaks so fast. I think he's still on drugs. Anyway, anybody else? Love to hear from you guys. Any thoughts, any comments? If you want to unmute yourself, love to hear from you.
Omar, just 2 things from my side. It's a personal experience I have within this 4 weeks also. I've been speaking with different partners, customer, maybe on a daily basis, maybe twice per day, without even mentioning any issue related to sales. As you say, just to say, how are you? How's things? How is family in this situation? And the feedback was amazing. One of them had said something, and I always going to mention it, that he say, once things are better, we will pay you back this work of kindness. Because partnerships, relation is not only I have to push you to place an order, I have to support you if you have something, but part of our relationship with our customers and partner is the true relationship, one-to-one relationship, asking about his family, about his kids, what they are doing. And I have a couple of them say, Adnan, time will change, and because of this, we as a customer will change and support you more. And this is something really happened with me. I feel proud of having such a customer. Second thing, I don't know if we have a time to discuss it, but how we can, very short, make sure we are motivating our team in such a stressful situation. If there is a steps, if there is guidance or something we can do to make sure that we are eliminating the stress and keep them motivated.
Guys, for those of you who are managing teams of people, again, I realize maybe some people don't have structural authority, but that's perfectly fine. Just one comment I wanted to make is, in this, and this is, again, you don't have to be a manager, but for managers, very important, do this. Look, in this time, we've got to give our people purpose. Like purpose. Like, why do we do what we're doing? Other than KPI, smart objective, target-driven, objective-oriented, short-term management, where managers walked around trying to find people doing something wrong. How about culture setting, emotionally intelligent, right-brain leadership, where leaders walked around trying to catch people doing something right? Look, I'm conscious we don't have a lot of managers. Maybe, Adnan, maybe we can have a separate call for managers, because I want to make sure everybody's engaged. I'd love to share with you some thoughts around how do you keep your people engaged. But just one thing about purpose, right? And that highest level of energy, purpose. If God forbid, guys, this thing goes on any longer, you know, you'll have a lot of people losing purpose, right? They're waking up every day and everything looks the same. I don't talk about myself because I don't think that's the point, but about a month ago, my business was shaken to its core, right? Here I was flying around the world, hot shot keynote speeches. Here I am, I can't leave my house. I'm so proud of how quickly we changed, right? How quickly we went to e-learning and keynotes and so on. We're busier than we ever were. I'm only sharing this with you because I want to tell you, all of a sudden, I have purpose now. I have purpose. Maybe you can call your clients. Maybe you can talk to your managers. And for those of your managers, give your people purpose. Something else other than that KPI, short of time, kind of deadline-oriented, target-driven conversation. Targets will come. What comes first? Do people bring profits, or do profits bring people? Something for you to think about. Anybody else love to hear from you guys. Any thoughts, any questions, any comments? Got 5 minutes or so to go. And we can stay longer, guys. Okay, I get paid by the hour. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. Love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. Any thoughts, any comments? Don't worry.
I think you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder is really great now. And if you want to look positive, you're gonna look, you know, you're gonna attract the positive news, and you can look at the negative news. Both exist, honestly. So it really sits with you. How do you read the situation? How do you read, you know, the exit of a situation? And how do you see the positive side of the story? But it's a personal choice, and at the end, you are the sum of your choices. So it's really up to the individual and the people around to think in a positive way and stay positive, because that's, and I like this logo on the screen. It is really contagious, and that's exactly what we need.
Isn't it true? Isn't it true, Malik, that in the same economy, Stephen, Malik, Adnan, other guys, Wouldn't you agree? Even in the same economy, some people are going to shoot the lights out. Some salespeople are going to have amazing results, and other people just.
Exactly.
How? What's the difference?
I'll tell you, people, whenever you ask them, things are bad. So before the crisis, in the crisis, that's a trend. So it's not really reflective of situation. So just a personal choice. And I think it's up to each individual to pick the positive attitude and stick to it. Then things will be positive.
Our attitude will define us. Guys, maybe, you got your managers telling you this all day, so you think it's just evangelical. But I just leave you with this thought, please. Your self-talk in this time, if it gets a little bit lonely, I know you're all over the world, I know you don't, if it gets a little bit lonely, your self-talk, your self-limiting beliefs, right? Be careful what you're talking, be careful what you say, be careful what you tell yourself. They say, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're probably right. Right? If you believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're probably right. Positivity is contagious. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid says, leadership is easy when times are good. Right? When times are good, everyone's a leader. Right? Everyone's a leader. It's when times are tough, the ability to give positivity to others, and you get positivity. I know some people have to log off. Guys, I hope the session was interesting for you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping we'll get another opportunity to see you guys. I'm going to leave my the YouTube channel. We do every Thursday. If you've got nothing else to do in your life, every Thursday at 11 a.m. Dubai time, we're doing these kind of public sessions where we've got 300 people on the call with us, different countries, different industries. Drop me an email. I'll put you on that email list for the. In fact, I already have your email addresses. So Malik, I'll send everyone an email out if they want to log into those. Obviously, complimentary sessions. And stay positive. We'll have another conversation afterwards with Malik, Adnan, and the team if we can put something together from a sales and leadership perspective for you. Otherwise, please stay safe. Ramadan Kareem to all of you. I hope the session was engaging. I'll stay here a little bit longer in case you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you guys soon.
Thanks.